weren't aware, your meetings suck. At Occupy, we tried to make our meetings suck a little bit less, and this is what we came up with. Feel free to participate during this talk as much as you want. So I'm AJ. I dislike authority and vertical hierarchy, and especially vertical hierarchy that disguises itself as horizontal. I'm not going to try to convey the meaning and importance of the Occupy movement in 5 minutes, but ask me sometime. So you know how anytime you have more than 2 people in a meeting, it gets pretty terrible pretty quick? Well, imagine what it's like when you have tens or hundreds or thousands of people trying to make decisions, all while having an equal voice. I'll tell you what happens. Your General Assemblies basically go on forever. At Occupy, we came up with a few hand signals that I would like to share with you today. And from what I hear, they might be useful during the open spaces, as well as at your work. So most of what happens during meetings is basically agreement or disagreement, as well as people trying to protect other people's feelings by making their speech more flowery, hedging a lot. Well, you can replace all of that with a few hand signals, the first of which is this one. Do it with me now. This is what you do to indicate that you agree. It comes from the American Sign Language sign for applause. Now, disagreement gets a little more complicated. According to traditional advice, the best way to disagree during meetings is to use lots and lots of very nice and polite words. At Occupy, anybody got time for that, so we replaced all of it with a couple of hand signals. When you feel neutral or have reservations about something, you just do this. And when you disagree with something, you do the same thing with your fingers pointing down like this, exactly. And when you feel so strongly against something that you'll leave it, if it happens, you do this to indicate it's a blocker. So, what about when you want to say something a little more complicated than yes or no? It boils down to 2 simple rules. If you must speak, be quick about it, and for the love of God, stop interrupting people. We did this with a stack, what we call the stack. It's managed by a rotating facilitator who keeps track of who wants to speak next. If you have something to say, you raise your hand, they add you to the stack, and when it's your turn, you have 30 seconds to say your bit, and you're done. But what about when you just have a quick thing to say, like to interject? You know it's rude to interrupt, but you just have one quick thing. And you know how infuriating it is when someone else at the meeting, when you've been waiting to talk, commands the attention of the entire room when they inhale? That's infuriating for us too, so we came up with a few hand signals to deal with that. The first one is the direct response. This is when you have something quick to interject, a correction or a piece of unopinionated information, such as, actually, the event starts at 8 o'clock, not 9. 10 seconds, that's it. And no opinions allowed, importantly. What about when you have a question or you need some more information before you can make an informed decision or vote on an issue? That's when we use the point of clarification or clarifying question. It's simply a hand in the shape of a C. And then we have a very useful one, which is used when somebody has gotten off topic. And the beautiful thing about this one is that when people see you doing it, they will generally autocorrect and bring themselves back onto topic. Please use this one all the time. Basically, my entire presentation is about this slide and an attempt to get this particular one to spread. It's called the wrap it up. It means we hear you, we understand, you can move on to the next point. So I should mention that Occupy didn't invent these things. It comes from adapting techniques from a long tradition of anarchism. Anarchists are extremely well organized and efficient during their meetings. It's really interesting stuff. I would encourage you to look it up and read more about it. The takeaway is that even though this stuff is really hard, it's important because traditionally marginalized groups often have great ideas. This is really useful also for reducing gender bias and microaggressions during meetings, so do it even though it's hard. There you have it. So you just reduced your meetings by 50%, and take this home with you to your workplaces and in the open spaces, and it'll make meetings a little less unbearable for all of us. Thank you.